When it comes to Donald Trump, nothing should shock you or anybody anymore. Donald Trump manipulating video footage after the purported shooting incident at the White House Correspondents' dinner. As you may know, Donald Trump gave an interview with Norah O'Donnell on CBS. The interview apparently lasted closer to about an hour. However, Donald Trump made sure to work with CBS to make sure that it was heavily edited, so it was only the portions that Donald Trump wanted. Still looked absolutely horrible. He still said some of the most deranged things, and Norah O'Donnell, except for a very short moment also, was just a journalistic malpractice, in my personal opinion. But there was a full interview that just got chopped up, and the public got the portions that Donald Trump and the right-wing oligarch overlords over at CBS wanted the audience to see, which is quite ironic when you think about it, although the word ironic doesn't do it justice, that Donald Trump sued CBS in 60 Minutes, in my opinion, based on the most frivolous lawsuit ever, saying that they edited out a few words that former Vice President Kamala Harris said, where it was like ums and ahs, and they just edited it to tighten it up, but they posted the other footage elsewhere on the website. But Donald Trump sued CBS based on an October 2024 interview that they did with Kamala Harris when Donald Trump was too afraid to give an interview with CBS 60 Minutes in connection with the 2024 election, but instead sued CBS, had them pay him $16 million. Oh, and by the way, one of the things that was edited out in this 60 Minutes interview was where Donald Trump was mocking CBS for reaching the settlement with him, although Donald Trump apparently claimed it was for $38 million because he lies about everything. I mean, the fact that they paid him $16 million purportedly to go to a presidential library, which we now know is actually a skyscraper that Donald Trump wants to build in Miami, where he and DeSantis basically kicked out a community college right there, took their land, gave it to Donald Trump's so-called presidential library, which is going to be a tax-free skyscraper where he's purportedly used this settlement money to help build basically what appears to be a for-profit hotel business that he just doesn't want to pay taxes for. But in any event, all of this was left out in the final edit that the people got to see. And instead, what was published to the people, to the masses, was a heavily edited propaganda piece that Norah O'Donnell at the end was like, I just want to tell you, Donald, thank you so much for just being a leader on behalf of the whole White House Correspondents' dinner. We're appreciative of you, Donald. We're grateful for you. You know who's not grateful for him? The American people. This whole using this White House correspondent incident to push this golden ballroom that they want to build. And now we see what their real agenda was, which not surprisingly was what we've always been saying at the MeidasTouch Network. There ain't no private donors who are going to be paying for this thing. He's going to force the taxpayers to pay for it. He's a liar. He's a fraud. And now the whole day we had MAGA Republicans saying the taxpayers need to pay for it. MAGA Mike Johnson and Republicans in the Senate trying to say, let's make Democrats and let's attack Democrats based on the White House Correspondents' dinner, and then let's make the American people pay for the ballroom themselves. Let's add it to the Department of Homeland Security supplemental, right? So the sequence of events, just so you know, Donald Trump manipulates the 60 Minutes Norah O'Donnell interview, basically has them edited so it's 12, 13 minutes, we're learning now, right? And then what does he do today? He pushes out on state regime media, Fox, all of this ballroom stuff over and over and over again. So utterly bizarre. Like he had state regime media literally do this piece right here where their entire segment was dedicated to ballroom coverage. This is how they want to change the narrative, right? Because they know that right now, Foreign Minister Araghchi of Iran was meeting with Putin, talking about their support for each other. We know right now the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. It's catastrophic, the oil supply shock that Donald Trump caused. People are suffering and feeling psychologically tortured here. Prices are through the roof. Trump's approval lower than Nixon at the time that Nixon resigned. So they had to change the narrative. So this is what they do. Aren't they so transparent and disgusting, these people? Here's what they tried to do on Fox. Play this clip.
What do you make of this ballroom as a national security necessity, the White House says, because Democrats in the courts and the media have been pushing back on it? We should point out it's going to have a drone-proof roof and ceilings as well as blast-proof glass for all windows. What do you make of this?
It's absolutely a necessity. The president, his cabinet, visiting heads of state all need a place where they can gather that's secure, that's safe, that can be contained. And one of the things we've learned in the wake of these awful assassination attempts against President Trump and the investigation following Butler and the Florida incident is that where events are held is a critical component of maintaining security.
Then he has his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, go on. He manipulates the footage on CBS because they've become state regime media. Then he has Lara Trump go on state regime media Fox. And here's what they do.
These people absolutely need to come out and unequivocally state that Donald Trump was elected as the president of the United States, that he is not a tyrant, he is not a dictator, he is not authoritarian in what he does.
Then he has Jesse Waters do this. Here's what Jesse Waters says.
Jesse, do we need the ballroom?
I never understood the opposition to the ballroom. I mean, all women love ballrooms, and what do guys care? It's free. The argument that it's a lavish vanity project, maybe, but it's mostly for national security. They're building a nerve center for the Defense Intelligence Agency underneath. And you can't get a drone through, a missile through. It's the safest place on planet Earth. We can have not only White House Correspondents' centers, we can have Kid Rock concerts in there. And if you think about it, it's
goodness.
How dare you? It's the people's house. Don't you want more people in the house? What are they can hold, like 100 right now, 150? Yeah. It's not enough. Let's all just gather around each other and have everybody show up.
Then y'all remember the video footage of Stephen Miller, like grabbing his wife's chest and kind of using her as a shield for himself during this alleged incident that was taking place? Well, bring in Katie Miller, who was grabbed and used as a shield by her husband, Stephen Miller. You see the photo right there where he's grabbing, right? Is there any doubt what's going on in that scene? But then she goes on state regime media, which calls itself Fox. And after the footage is manipulated in CBS, they just push out. This is all Russian style propaganda. This whole operation is one big like psyop, it seems, right? Just using the incident as propaganda to brainwash. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, they have a trillion, think about this. They've got $1 trillion media empire when you factor in Elon Musk's ownership and other tech ownership, just to beam these lies into people's faces. They're like literally manipulating this and that. That's why we need independent news. By the way, that's why make sure you subscribe here. Here's what Katie Miller says. Play it.
No, and some of his premier complaints are then of immigration, which, as we know, is near and dear to my husband's heart. And so at that moment, when the detail came up, I said, oh, well, this must be real and I should be walking very quickly. And again, it's like, how do you stand up 8 months pregnant from the floor? You really can't without help. So my dear husband lifts me up, and Brian, who's our detail, says to Stephen, you know, she goes first, and so I went first because the threat was behind us. And so what everyone sees is my husband maybe copping a feel. But what I would say is that he wasn't going to put his hands on my stomach because that's where our baby is. Yeah. And so he just moved his hands upward. And of course, you don't notice that in the moment. And later that night, I see it on X. And there's this like very funny post. And I look at Stephen and I was like, did you really need to do that? And he's like, what did I do?
Nice. Copped a feel on the way out of the ballroom. Katie, what they were saying was that Stephen was using you as a human shield. I'm sorry. I saw that and I said, they're really desperate at this point. I mean, now they're just trying anything, throwing anything out there.
They really can't let Stephen Miller have a good news cycle. No. You know, he's done so much for this country thanks to President Trump. President Trump has been at the foremost of changing this country and fulfilling every single campaign promise. My husband at his side for years now, Laura, and they could not give Stephen Miller a good news cycle if they've tried. No. They had to make me the target. No. And you know what? To that, I would say Stephen did a phenomenal job, and he was behind me and protecting not only me, but our baby.
Oh, well, Katie, I'm glad you guys are okay. And
then Katie Miller uses this this as an attack against California in general. The alleged gunman's from California. That's not a shocker because in California, this is what Governor Newsom wants. Here, play this clip.
You know, it is crazy, as we just saw your intro, about the political violence and political rhetoric in this country. It's no mistake that this man hails from the state of California, and that of Gavin Newsom, who is one of the worst offenders of this violent political rhetoric that we see that sparks this man's imagination.
So do you see all of the pieces together? Trump works with CBS, manipulates the footage. By the way, Donald Trump met with the owners of CBS the day before all of this went down. Private meeting, private dinner took place. Then the alleged incident takes place. Within minutes, they're pushing Golden Ballroom. Then as the time progresses, it's Golden Ballroom. They want to build, they want the taxpayers to pay for it. They want to ban No Kings protests. They're pushing an agenda why they basically want to make voting a lot more difficult. They attack the transgender community. They attack Governor Newsom based on this. You see how they're using it. They call Democrats crazy. The whole coverage is dedicated to, attacking Democrats and attacking Newsom. It's ridiculous. And then you have Todd Blanche, Trump's attorney general. Within less than 7 hours, they file a motion with the federal court to try to overturn the court's prior order where the court blocked the construction of the Golden Ballroom. Why are these things why is Golden Ballroom that nobody wants, which is illegal, by the way, without Congress passing a law? Congress will try to pass the law, have anything to do with the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It makes zero sense. And here you have Todd Blanche saying, we asked the court on an emergency basis, you've got to build the Golden Ballroom now. Just the way they've all handled this after, it's not just suspicious, it's just so freaking weird. It's like, you want to try to conjure sympathy, but we're like smiling after the incident in the Oval Office and in the press room. It's weird. Here's what Todd Blanche said here. Let's play it.
Thank you for taking my question. You personally have called for a construction of this ballroom at the White House. The president has called for this as well. Today, the National Trust president put out a statement, says that they're grateful that everybody's okay. But, and I quote, we are not planning to voluntarily dismiss our lawsuit, which endangers no one, and which respectfully ask the administration to follow the law. Ballroom construction is continuing unabated until June 5th at the earliest because the injunction is on hold. Where does the Justice Department go from here? And then I have a follow-up on that.
Well, we filed a motion today asking the court to do what the plaintiffs refused to do. We absolutely believe that there is no better example of why this ballroom is necessary, aside from all the very positive things the ballroom will bring to this country and to Washington, D.C., than what happened on Saturday night. You guys, many of you all were there. That's one of the only places in D.C. that you can hold an event like that due to its size and the structure of what we need. So we're basically stuck at this point in the city with having an event like that at a hotel. So underneath a ton of hotel rooms. And so the fact that we, aside from the fact that the ballroom is spectacular, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to make this country look great every time it's used. It's also a meaningful safety issue. And so I very much wish that the plaintiffs and their counsel would take a different view. But if they don't, we are going to continue to fight in court like we have been. And hopefully the judges at the D.C. Circuit Court will do the right thing.
And by the way, as Todd Blanche says, they didn't even determine yet if the individual they allege to be the shooter even fired shots at any police officer. Here, play this clip.
Have you been able to determine whether the gunman fired shots? If so, how many shots he fired, and whose bullet hit the agent?
We want to get that right. So we're still looking at that. It appears, and I don't want to overstate because we are still looking at this, that there were five shots that law enforcement fired. We have all the evidence is being examined very carefully and expeditiously, and we'll know more soon. We do believe that as the complaint lays out, that the defendant fired it out of his shotgun, and we know that happened. But as far as getting into exacting ballistics, I'm not going to do that today because it's still being looked at and finalized.
And then you have Kash Patel kind of coughing into the mic during that press conference yesterday. He's like, this one hits a little different. I mean, they're just a bunch of jester actors, huh? They're but just a bunch of gesture actors. Here, play this clip.
Excuse me. Thank you, General. This one hits a little differently. We were all there. Many of you were there. Many of you watching were there as well. The president was there. The vice president was there. The cabinet was there. And what you saw described by the general and the U.S. attorney is absolutely true. The president spoke on late Saturday evening with the message of unity and a backing of law enforcement. And we have followed through on that message of unity.
And just to remind you of the type of stuff that Trump would say all the time and still says to this day, remember during the campaign where Donald Trump attacked Nancy Pelosi's husband, who was the victim of an attempted murder? Remember then he implied that Nancy Pelosi's husband was involved in a homosexual relationship with the person who tried to kill him, and that's what happened. And that's why he was wearing his underwear, because they were in like a gay relationship together. You know, that's what Don Jr. said for Halloween. He was going to dress up. He showed a photo of an underwear with a hammer as Nancy Pelosi's husband. I mean, these are sick people. These are sick, violent people who are covering up the Epstein files, at least the Trump. Trump's covering it up. Here, let's watch this video of what he said about Pelosi.
Administration. The only terror we had was Nancy Pelosi, who's a crazed lunatic. She's a lunatic. She is a crazed lunatic. What the hell was going on with her husband? Let's not ask. Let's not ask. I'll withdraw that statement. By the way, she's got a wall around her house. Obviously, in that case, it didn't work very well, did it? It didn't work.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Seriously, you may think you're subscribed, but you may not actually be subscribed. Double check. Let's get to 7 million.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.